This is the crossover high rear delt row, and we're going to do it from the lat tower. And I suggest on this one that you put the pulleys in the narrowest setting that's available on the lat tower. Now, take a look. The seat's gone. Josh steps around the front there, and watch how he crosses over, meaning right hand to the left handle, left hand to the right handle, and then when he gets ready and gets in position, the cables and handles will actually cross. So, here's the key. He's kind of got his feet not only a little bit side to side, in other words, they're not lined up with each other like he's standing on a balance beam or anything. They're still split side to side, but they're also split front to back, and that's so he can balance front to back as I ask him to do this next thing, which is a very slightly lean back. Very slightly. Notice he did that in his lower extremity. He didn't just arch his back a whole bunch. Show what happens if it's too much in the back. Yeah, if he just did that in his back, I don't necessarily want that. That'd be uncomfortable. So he's doing it all kind of down here, this leaning back thing. It's almost like he's like a water skier, if you can imagine that, just a little bit back. And what that does, it angles his torso so that he's kind of perpendicular to the cables here. And now watch. His palms are facing the ground, and he leads with his elbows. It was so critical. And every time he brings his elbows back, his elbows bend to about 90 degrees, and his shoulder blades are pinched back too. See all this pinching together, all these scapular muscles, and you can see the rear delts. And as he goes forward, he lets those shoulder blades come apart. Show him that again, Josh. See how they come apart? And then every time he pinches here, as he brings them back, and that's perfect. And every time he keeps his elbows just about shoulder height. And this next time, I want you to see the difference between that and if his elbows drop way down. Now that's a different thing. That's going to be something else we might do later, but you don't see as much activity up here. Some, it's not that there's nothing working up here, but if the emphasis is up in this area, rear delts and all of its little buddies, then we're going to keep those arms out to the side like that. There you go. For this rear delt type of exercise, we're going to be seated on the floor and again crossing the cables in front. So when you grab the cables from the bottom platform, move the pulleys to the widest position and then grab the one from the right side with the left hand and vice versa. Now, make sure you bend your knees some here because it's going to make it a lot easier to sit up erect in your spine with your knees bent. If you try to lock your knees out, not only will it be uncomfortable, but also you're going to have this big rounded place on your back. So nice and straight, chest up, palms facing the floor, elbows are going to move out to the side at near shoulder level. Now, when he's doing this, notice he's not moving forward and backward in the trunk. He's not pulling with everything like he's rowing a boat. He's just moving his arms by leading with the elbows, bending the elbows. As he comes forward, his arms straighten out again. Notice his shoulder blades came forward, but he kept his posture. You really got to practice those things. Josh is really good at it, and it takes some practice. So one more time. Elbows out to the side. He's going as far back as he can, really trying to squeeze everything across there, squeezing between the shoulder blades, and then controlling it forward again, keeping his spine in perfect alignment, knees bent. Here's another version of the rear delt row, only this time we're standing like one of the previous ones, but we're going to be bent over using the pulleys from the platform. So I'm going to ask Amy to come around here and face the machine. Now the whole key to this is more advanced than some of the others because before you just were trying to remain virtually upright while pulling from this direction. One of the greatest challenges to this exercise is being able to maintain the positions in your spine that you need to while bending forward to perform the exercise. So make sure that you understand that alignment and that you have the control and ability to do it because you're going to have to bend forward at the hips while keeping your back nice and flat. And that's the tough part. That may be the part that actually gets tired during the exercise for many beginners. And then the key is going to be, once you grab the handles, to move those elbows out to the side. Not beside your body, but out to the side the way Amy is. And notice her elbows, if you looked across here, her elbows at almost shoulder height in terms of being about 90 degrees from her body when she brings them out. And she's going as far back as she can while pinching her shoulder blades together. Look at that. That's perfect right there. You can see this muscle area really working. And as we mentioned before, it's not just the rear delts. There's a lot of other portions of the deltoid as well as deeper muscles, even portions of the rotator cuff that are working here. But the whole thing is that she's paying close attention. Even when she's pulling on the cables and thinking about her arm movement, she's still in the back of her head is thinking, what position is my spine in? Am I keeping my abs tight? Those are the first and foremost things on her mind. This is a version of a rear delt exercise where we're also standing, but we're going to be bent over and crossing the cables this time. So Josh, I'm going to have you come around front here. We're using the cables or the pulleys from the platform, and we've got them adjusted. The position of the pulleys is adjusted, not all the way out, not all the way in. When you do this, you might try one of the middle two settings for the platform pulley. And notice Josh uses his right hand to grab the cable that's on the left and vice versa. And now we're set up. The big thing here is going to be getting a foot position, knee position, and hip position that allows him to do the thing he needs with his back, which is keep it flat. And sometimes you can think of this as keeping the chest out, because when people say keep your back flat, well, you can't really see your back from where you are. So sometimes you might think of it as, well, if my rib cage is kind of collapsed, then I know I'm rounded across the back. So try to keep that rib cage out, chest out, rib cage out, and then there's a much better chance that this is going to be the way you want it to be. Then all you have to do is use all the musculature all the way around to try to hold it that way as you perform the perfect rear delt row, which involves your arms being away from your sides. Show them what happens when your arms are too close to your sides, Josh. So that's not what we're looking for. That's a good exercise, but it's something else. Maybe it's for later. Right now we're trying to get the arms out away from the side. You can see the activity up here. You see his shoulder blades moving and they go forward. As he reaches forward, they bring back. And a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't pinch their shoulder blades as they come back. And it's a vital portion. And if you've never done that before, it'll actually make it a little bit tougher. So there he's reaching forward, bringing back, arms away from the side. And he's letting his elbows bend. His elbows are kind of floating as he goes along. His elbows and forearms are in line with the cable. So he's reaching, but as he comes across, that cable and forearms stay lined up with each other. And that is perfect. Just keep in mind the position you want your low back in, and be safe, nice and slow, remember. Some people call this the reverse fly, and it's really just another version of what a lot of people think of as a rear deltoid exercise. Even though there's a lot of other muscles working, that probably is the main thing. So Amy's going to help me right here. Notice we've got the pulleys on the narrow setting with no seat. She's going to come around front and face the machine, and with the right hand grab the right handle and the left hand grab the left handle, and kind of keep her feet split, maybe front to back, just for a little support and stability. Now, here's the key. This being more like a fly, she's going to hold her elbows still. Now, that doesn't mean locked out straight. She's going to keep a slight bend in it. There's another thing I want to talk to you about here. And if you can see, a lot of times people, when they do flies in the gym, whether it's a reverse fly or a chest fly, they always think that a fly position has to do with turning the palms towards each other, like this. You do not necessarily have to do that. In fact, for this, I'm not sure that I would, because when we turn the palms, so many times we externally rotate the whole shoulder. And when she comes back, you're not going to see as much activity here as when she keeps the palm facing the ground and then takes the arm straight out. Now watch this. Look at all these things working, not only rear delts, but a lot of the other deltoids, trapezius, all those scapular guys. And come on back to the center. She keeps her posture as she comes forward. It's so nice and so slow and so controlled. And as she goes out, notice her arms are just very slightly below shoulder level. And this is important. So a lot of times people start bringing them down too low, or they start bending their elbows a bunch, and they end up doing all kinds of things like this. So try your best to go slow and pay attention. This is where it's nice to have a mirror you can even move around the room, maybe one that would normally go on the back of a door, so it's got a frame on it, and it's kind of sturdy, and you can lean it against the wall and watch and move it from side to side. But that way she can see exactly the plane she's moving through, and look at all the activity there. She's doing a great job. So try your best to make it look just like Amy's doing right here. The crossover reverse fly is a great exercise, not only working their posterior deltoid, but a lot of other scapular muscles and even some other deltoid muscles a little bit. Now, notice the seat is gone. The cables can either be in the narrow setting, or if you've got pretty long arms like Josh does, we went to a little wider setting so it wouldn't rub on the bench when he crosses those cables over. Now, as he comes around, he's going to reach over with his right hand to grab that left cable, and vice versa here, left hand on the cable from the right side. Now the next thing's real important, of course. Not only his posture, keeping that spine, relatively straight so he's not all hunched up and slouching and that kind of thing. We always want to watch for that. But also he's got his feet kind of split front to back. And that helps him be stable, and he bends over just a little bit so his torso is perpendicular to the cables right here. And he's going to keep his arms pretty stiff, meaning not necessarily straight, not necessarily locked, but not letting him bend during the exercise either. And that's what's going to make this a fly type of movement. Now, we're going to ask also that instead of turning his palms towards each other, traditional fly, maybe keep the palms facing the ground. Try it and see which one you like better. But I think if you try this and get used to it, I think you'll like it. Now, notice what he did here. He's brought those shoulder blades together as he came back. As he goes forward, he can let them move just a little bit there, but he keeps all of his torso in such a great alignment. And you see that elbow coming out on each side at just about shoulder level. Not quite. We don't want it up all the way the same height as the shoulder. No way. We want it just below, maybe even with his arm pitch, you could almost say. And see, that's just about where he is, right across there. Now, if he starts to go lower than that when he comes back, you're not going to see quite as much going on here. Notice still a little bit. But if he wants the optimum for this kind of deal, right about even with his armpit for height. Keeping the arm straight, keeping the motion nice and slow, and watching that torso. If you start to get tired in here, it may be time to quit the exercise. The seated shoulder press is a great upper body exercise involving not only the deltoids, like so many people think, but also almost all of the scapular muscles, and even rotator cuff. It's a great rotator cuff exercise, especially when you're doing it with the lighter weights and warming up and that kind of thing. So what you want to do is set the seat height so that it's high enough that when you grab the handles, you really got some tension on them, because you can see that if it was too low, when the handle was up here, your hand would be up this high before you even started the press. So that might not work as well. So we've got this set for Josh where his shoulder level is just about the same as the crossbar right here. Now notice we're still going to have him reach underneath to grab the handles. That's still real important that you don't reach over the top. And now he bends the elbow and gets him into position. We have got the pulleys specifically set on either the narrow position, and in a minute we'll show you the next to the narrow position. There's probably the two best options for you. The narrowest is going to be the easiest, and as he presses upward and a little bit forward, you'll see he's actually kind of going over his forehead a little bit. And as he does, he keeps his forearms parallel, kind of reaching up to the sky there. And as he comes down, he bends his elbows, again keeping his forearms parallel the whole time. And he could, if he wanted, he could even push a little bit more forward. It'd be a little bit different version of the same thing, and a little bit more even upper pec involvement. But a little bit higher where you started, go back where you started just a little bit. There you go. Now, let me show you something. When we go one notch wider, go ahead and take it down while I do this. I didn't want to make it tougher on you while you're up in the air. One notch wider, the second pulley position. And it's going to be a little bit tougher already because the pulleys or the cables are pulling out wide on him from the top, right? So you can't balance there.
Yeah.
So that's pretty tough. To come all the way out here, the widest pulley, I'm not sure I would do it with this exercise. Even the next to the widest, I'm not sure I would. So pay close attention to what he's doing. Let the shoulder blades move up when you reach up. They're going to come down when you come down. Allow all that natural motion and keep it slow and controlled. This is the front shoulder raise, and we've got a couple options for you on this. We're going to use the pulleys from the bottom, from the platform, and pull them back. Bring those pulleys back. They got those adjustable settings on them. Bring them back to where they're just about shoulder width. So we're at next to the back for Amy here, and she's got the individual handles, and it's real simple. All we're going to do is start with one at a time, raising the arm up to the front. And notice, a lot of people say, oh, it's the front deltoid. It's a front deltoid and a whole bunch of the middle deltoid. You can even see some upper pec in there. So there's a lot of things. Plus, she's having to stabilize with the scapula. We don't want those shoulder blades moving around all over the place when she's doing this. So lots of control. Now, one thing you notice, she's got plenty of cable travel to be able to go way up on hers. Now, I'm about 6'2", and if I did this, I might have to do one of two things. Either put the adjustable webbing in there, which would make it work out great, or I could even put the seat down on a low setting and do them seated. Of course, she could do them seated too if she wanted to. So there's a couple nice options. Now, once you get used to doing them, one at a time, and you get that feeling of control in your torso, try them if you want to, two at a time. Try them, Amy, bilateral. This is a lot tougher because it's right here that she's having to control so much, because it's twice as hard on her trunk muscles to lift both arms to the front with all that load pulling on them. And then another really fun thing you can do to kind of mix it up and work on coordination almost. You know how to do the simultaneous alternating? This is great. Nice and slow. Just because you're doing something, two at one time here, alternating, doesn't mean you get to go fast like you're trying to swim or do some kind of pedaling or something with your hands. Nice and slow and controlled. And you'll see a lot of work going on in the entire front part of the shoulder and even in the shoulder blades. This exercise is shoulder extension, and we're going to start with the seat removed and the pulleys in the narrow setting. And Amy's going to walk right around to the front, and her back's going to be to the camera, but you'll actually be able to see a lot more in what's going on in the muscles because she's here. Now, you're just going to grab with her left hand the left handle and the right handle with the right hand, and then split the feet again front to back. That's again for stability. She's going to keep her spine nice and controlled, tighten the abs and all that good stuff. And then all she's going to do is keep the arms relatively straight and slowly bring them back, even with her body and maybe even a little bit behind there. And watch what she did right then. Did you see? Go do it again. Shoulder blades move forward as she moves her arms forward. Now watch, she pinches these shoulder blades together as she brings them back. Sometimes you'll see people do this and they don't really pinch their shoulder blades together. It's not going to do the same thing. You'll feel so much more if you can pinch it every single time. Now, she could also alternate them if she wanted to. There you go. Now I'll show you the little bit more advanced version. Once you get pretty good at a couple of these versions, go ahead and step back just a little bit and then lean forward by bending at the hips. Now see, she did not lose her posture. She took her nice straight back and bent forward by sticking her hips out. That's why I say it's advanced, because that's the advanced part of it. But in doing that, she's able to start from a greater range of motion instead of just pulling from here to here like the initial one. So now let's take a look at that, Amy. Pinching together. There you go. And it's also tougher because the further these cables travel, the more the rod bends. And you remember from the first part of this DVD or video that the further the rod bends, the more resistance you get. So this, in many ways, is more advanced. So give it a try, but not till you're ready, not till you can control the first version. Okay, this is the shoulder shrug, and we've actually got some wonderful options on this that you will not even have in the gym using free weights. The big reason we have options is because of the multiple positions in which we can put our pulleys down here. Now we've got this set for Josh, where the pulleys are almost in the next to the narrowest setting on this bottom platform pulley. So Josh, come on around and face the machine. When you're using the narrow setting or next to the narrowest setting, we're going to face the machine. If you're using the wider setting or next to the widest setting, you're going to face away from the machine. But right here with Josh, you can see some critical things. He's keeping nice posture. He's drawing his shoulders up while letting his arms just hang straight down. And the key component, he's not throwing his head backwards. Show what happens when you kind of look up the ceiling. We're not doing that. Do not allow yourself to do that. Take off some weight, do whatever it takes to fix that. And he's not throwing his chin forward. Show him what that looks like. We're not going to do that. So those two cervical or head movements, we're not going to allow those to happen when you're doing the shrug. This is critical, folks. This is what's going to make it safe. Okay? So watch what he does here. He's thinking about bringing his shoulders towards the back of his head. One cue that you'll hear all the time in the gym and often read in magazines and books is to take your shoulder towards your ears. And these muscles don't attach anywhere near your ears. And you'll actually be more effective if you take your shoulders towards the back of your head, which is a little bit behind you rather than right towards your ear right there. So keep all those other things in mind. And remember, you can make a nice variation on this. In fact, let's show him, Josh. Move that on out to the wide one. And then just face away from the machine here. Now look, this time, because the pulley's a little wider, it's going to pull outward on his arms. Some people might find that really more comfortable, and they might even get more range of motion because the pulleys are pulling outward slightly or the cables are outward. But all the same things. Shoulders to the back of the head, not shoulders to the ears. Don't let your head go up or eyes up. Don't let your chin go forward. How does that feel?
Good.
This exercise is called the lateral shoulder raise, and it involves a lot of the muscles around the deltoid area, even some rotator cuff muscles, scapular muscles. It's a really great exercise, but you're definitely going to want to keep it light on this because you can tell if you're getting too heavy because you start using every other part of your body at the same time. You've seen people do it, right? Now watch, it's real simple. Just grabbing the handle, seat removed. We have these pulleys, the platform pulleys, to the narrowest setting all the way back by the main part of the machine here. Now, they're just simply going to keep the arm